So we're in Monarch Waystation #1 at the University of Kansas. We're right behind Foley Hall, and the Monarch Waystation program began in about 1994, but Monarch Watch has been around since 1992. And it was started by Dr. Chip Taylor, who was professor in entomology at the University of Kansas. He started out working with some butterflies, and then he moved into bees, and for a while he was working on killer bee research. But after the killer bee research sort of got a little bit less popular, he looked for something else to study, and he decided to look at monarch butterflies. Back at that time, it was about 1992, he started Monarch Watch with the idea of continuing the program that was started by Dr. Fred Urquhart. It was a tagging program that began in the 1940s, and he had been tagging monarchs and putting little stickers on their wings so that he could track them and figure out where they were going. Nobody knew where monarchs were headed when they disappeared from Canada and the United States. So in about 1974, he found his first tag on a butterfly in the forests of Mexico, and that started a more intensified program that eventually closed down in the 90s, and then Chip decided that we could learn much more from tagging butterflies, and we're still tagging monarchs to this day. In fact, this is tagging season right now in the fall. Monarchs are migrating south to Mexico, where they will end up in the Oyamel forest there near the latitude of Mexico City. So the other thing that we started at Monarch Watch was the Monarch Waystation program. And this is the first of all of the Monarch Waystations. We have over 30,000 Monarch Waystations in the United States and Canada and all of the other places in the world where monarchs can exist. And that includes places like New Zealand and other parts of South America. So it's an international program, and we have been working on this tagging program now for 30 years. This is our 30th tagging season.
Here in the Monarch Waystation, there's a variety of flowers, of plants, of milkweeds that contribute to pollen sources, nectar sources, and also habitats for different species of moths, butterflies, monarchs in particular, and etc. And this plant in specifically the verbena, is a great source of nectar and has a sweet scent that actually attracts the monarchs, such as a skipper here. It is not a moth actually, but rather a skipper, and it has cool curly antennae. And so this is just a great plant to have in a butterfly garden. In addition, on the ground here, we have marigolds, which because of their bright color, it also attracts different pollinators and is another great plant to have within a butterfly garden. And when we move down this butterfly garden, we will also see these Mexican sunflowers. And so these Mexican sunflowers are native to Mexico and Central America, which is where Mexico is where the monarchs actually migrate to during the winter times. And so this again is another great source of nectar that attracts the butterflies and monarchs and pollinators. And as we continue moving down, we will see even more milkweeds. And so Mexican sunflower was a milkweed, but here we have another milkweed, and this one is the butterfly milkweed. So it's very common for butterflies to be attracted to, and like the marigold, which has the amazing, beautiful orange colors, it again attracts these pollinators and is another nectar source that you will find butterflies and monarchs and so forth. And finally, this is called a swan plant. And the swan plant is actually a milkweed, non-native to North America. It is rather native to Southeast Asia. And so like milkweeds, they are another great source of pollen and nectar for butterflies and other species alike. And so that's a rundown of the different milkweeds, flowers, and plants you would see in a Monarch Waystation and a butterfly garden that you can have in your home.
Milkweed is an important resource for the monarchs as they make their journey from the United States and Canada down to Mexico and some parts of California. Up to 100 million monarchs make the journey every fall, and waystations like this one are important rest stops on their journey. But monarchs aren't the only insects you'll see at the way station, the variety of plants and flowers provide an important ecosystem for other pollinators and other insects. The zebra swallowtail makes an appearance to take nectar from the pawpaw tree, and the trellis of the Dutchman's pipevine can attract the pipevine swallowtail. Other insects like bees, crickets, beetles, and decomposers play an important role in the way station habitat as well.
So pollinators are important to the environment for many different reasons. The main reason why they're important to the environment is because they allow a bunch of different types of plants to reproduce. So they do this by transferring pollen from the stamen to the stigma of the plant. And then another reason why they're important to the environment is because they're important to biodiversity. And without pollinators like the monarch and honeybees, a lot of wild flowering plants would cease to exist and go extinct because they would not be able to reproduce. They're also important for the carbon cycle because allowing types of grasses, trees, plants to reproduce is important because then they can capture carbon and reduce the carbon emissions in the atmosphere by capturing carbon, transferring it into oxygen, and then releasing it back into the atmosphere. So pollinators aren't only just important to the environment, they're also important to humans. And one of the main reasons why monarchs are important to humans as pollinators is that their migration route goes directly through the central United States, through the Corn Belt. And they're essential for pollinating different crops like corn and soybeans. So when they fly up through this corn belt, they pollinate more than 80% of the corn in that area. So without them, crop yields would go down and food production would be much lower.
If we've learned anything today on our tour, it's that creating environments for this not only benefit the monarchs, but other organisms that live in the environment. Today we've seen that all the aspects we've talked about today make up a perfect environment for monarchs to benefit from, but other organisms benefit from it as well. A simple way to continue to help monarchs is to build your own Monarch Waystation. In order to do this, you're going to need a place that experiences about 6 hours of sunlight a day, some milkweed species, some native nectar species, and a water source. Once you've picked out your sunny spot, you're going to need to get some native milkweed species. In Kansas, one of the native milkweed species is the butterfly milkweed, which we've seen here today. Next up, you're going to want to get some native nectar plants. These plants are going to provide your monarch butterflies with resources to make their migration in the fall. After you've gotten those plant species, you're going to want to get some kind of water source for all the organisms, insects, monarchs in your garden to hydrate themselves. Once you do all that, you should have a flourishing butterfly garden. So once you have all of those plant species in your garden and your water source, you're going to need to continue to manage your garden over time to make sure it stays healthy. To do this, you're going to want to water your garden, fertilize it, and remove invasive species when they pop up. Also, if you need help finding out which species of plants you can put in your garden, you can go to monarchwatch.org and they'll provide you with a bunch of information on which plants will best suit your garden. It might be a little difficult for everyone to put a butterfly garden in their backyard. So if you don't feel comfortable doing this right now, that's okay. You can go to monarchwatch.org and donate there to help this way station continue to flourish for years to come.